Hello. Welcome, everybody. You are here at Wholesaling 101. My name is Corey Ann, and I am here with the fabulous Benson. Hi, Benson. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Corianne. Thank you so much. Happy New Year, Natasha. Setting all this stuff up once again. Thank you so much. Happy New Year to everybody who's joining us. Thank you for being here. I hope you guys are all ready to kick 2024 off with a bang. It doesn't really feel like a new year to me.
Because you started all your goals early last month?
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I mean, those crossovers are, it's a nice milestone. It's kind of a nice way of just reframing, goals and kind of like, okay, now we're looking forward instead of backward kind of thing. So I think it's useful.
Absolutely. I see Jesse's said get ready for an election year, basically, which is absolutely what we're in. And that means we're going to be doing a lot of fun things with real estate, that's for sure. Will you mind? I'm sorry, but you've got to show everybody that's showed up today in the beginning of January what mug you're holding, because I think it's so funny that it is the exact opposite of Natasha's.
Yeah. So we were just comparing our mugs, and this is my coffee mug. It's backward for most of you, but it says coffee or die or death. And then Natasha showed me hers, and it said
Jesus
Jesus
or
or
coffee?
coffee. So
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
they're in stark contrast to each other.
indeed. But coffee is the one thing that we know carries us all through. So there it is. That.
It is a
Welcome,
key.
everybody. I'm glad you're here. Get in the door. We're shooting the shit right now because we are waiting on you guys
Yeah.
because we want to know exactly how we can bring you value in your wholesaling business as we're kicking off 2024. And yeah, so thank you for popping in. Thanks for saying hi in the chat. I like to see that everybody's here. So many names that I recognize.
Yes. Yeah, I'm excited.
And today
This
we're
will be
gonna
a good call. What do you want us to do today, Corianne? What's your plan?
My plan today is to go to the basics. Like, why do we use Privy? Why is it our absolute favorite software? And how can it get us to the deal as quickly as possible? And so, for everybody coming in, this is Wholesaling 101. And in wholesaling, what we're doing is we are taking an asset and we're getting equitable interest in that asset by getting it under contract. Then we're placing that with our buyers and selling that to our clients. And that now, if you're looking to do your first deal, I really want to know. So in the chat, will you drop me a one if you've never done a deal, but that is the goal first quarter of 2024, you're about to hit it? Because today we want to show you exactly how you can do it from the start using Privy. And if you don't have Privy, I highly suggest it because that's what we're going to be using today. So it's easier to follow along if you have it. And we've got a promo code for you. So use the promo code DAMG, and that will get you 30% off the annual plan or 20% off the first month if you go that route. Cool.
Absolutely.
Yay. I'm seeing a
So we've
lot
got
of people that are new.
yeah, a lot of new people, a lot of beginners, and that's great. You guys are in the right place. And obviously too, I want to congratulate you for taking time out of your schedule to be here because we've got jobs and we've got responsibilities. We've got a lot of other things that we could be wasting our time on right now, but you're here looking for ways to improve your craft, get better at this whole process. But accountability is one of the biggest things that holds us back in executing a business strategy, and more specifically, real estate investing and wholesaling. So, holding yourself accountable and being here is a great first step. You should be proud that you're here because there are going to be times when you start executing the process that you don't want to do the things that you're supposed to do, and they become excuses. So, good job being here.
Absolutely. And huge shout out to Ollie. I am very excited because this is, I don't know, maybe the fourth or fifth month that I've been able to join you, Benson. So I'm starting to see people come back with not a one anymore and saying, hey, I just did my first deal, or hey, I just got my third one done. And so that fills my heart. If you guys can pour some love in the chat, because getting the first one done is always the hardest. And now it's going to be about keeping momentum, especially if what you just received was your first big check and you're feeling that in your pocket, don't let that stop your momentum. Keep going. Let that be, okay, now it's time to get my second and third check that are just as big.
Ooh, and Ollie
I
says he's actually joining Astro now too.
Ooh, oh, okay. So Ollie's my new bro. Welcome, welcome to the family. I'm really excited for you in making that decision because when you find and work with other wholesalers and you're actually utilizing everybody's sphere of influence and who they know, you move so much faster. And you're coming into a great family to do that. So welcome. All right, everybody. So we know we got a lot of newbies. We know we want to show you exactly how you can get to that first deal. But maybe where should we go? I'm really curious if you're like, hey, I would love to see you guys hop into a specific area. Drop it into the chat because we're going to be following what you need. This is a great time to also get full questions into the chat because we're going to be watching out for it and try to bring you as much value as we can in 1 hour today. Ooh, I see a Miami. Are you still there with me, Benson?
I am. Yes. I don't know what happened there. The internet has been weird. I don't know what's going on with it. So I apologize. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine. You're here with us now.
Awesome.
We got a lot of good suggestions happening in the chat. Where do you think we should jump, Benson?
Well, I want to address someone said getting ready to cancel Privy. Why would you do that?
What?
I don't
Interesting.
know. The only reason, yeah, interesting. Terrible data compares a lot to a house. Those are hit and miss efficiencies. I can't pronounce your name. It could have just been a one-off, but when it comes to data, we're the only ones that have direct to MLS. Um, multi unit data is a little iffy in most places, especially with public records. Like sometimes you'll go to a house and it'll look like a single family, but it's actually a triplex, or it says it's a triplex, but it was never zoned for a triplex. So the public record says it's a single family. So you got to take those on a one-off now.
Oh,
Dan will be
interesting.
showing more of that today. So
Yeah,
go ahead,
because
Quinn.
so just for anybody that's asking, what is Privy? I'm gonna have a lot of agents blowing me up today, and I've got all my do not disturbs on, but some of them make it through. Sorry, guys. So Privy is my all-time favorite software. I am an agent. I have access to the MLS. I can pull comparables that way. I still choose to use Privy because of the amount of data that it pulls and shows you so quickly and in such an easy format for you to be able to look at. I am so curious where efficiency LED is running into issues because immediately from the one comment I see about a house being compared to a 10 unit, well, of course, that's not going to be a comparable and that's not quite going to break down the right way. So let's show them exactly how to do it and jump into one of these markets. Um, I saw, I saw
Somebody brought
Atlanta.
up Fort Worth. Fort Worth would be a worthy market. We don't really look at that too often.
Yeah, let's go. Texas for me is definitely a anomaly. I don't know much about it, and I love a challenge. Colorado,
Okay,
Florida, love those areas.
awesome. Well, let's go ahead and take a look at this here.
Please.
So I'll go ahead and I'll share.
Charles says that New York is the biggest challenge, and you have MLS data in New York now, don't you?
And many parts of New York. Yeah, New York
Mm,
is so huge that we've got like Western New York, and we've got some new parts in like New York City, Long Island. There's lots of different MLSs out there. All right, can
interesting.
you see my screen okay?
I can't see your screen yet.
I'm sharing it. Natasha, do you have to enable it? No, that's the wrong one. Okay.
All right. I still
Do you
can't see
see
your
Privy?
screen quite yet. Oh, wait. I think it's coming to us. Wonderful.
You got it?
Yep. I'm in. I see what's going on.
Awesome. Cool. So for those of you that aren't familiar with Privy, Privy is a data-driven technology platform. We help real estate wholesalers, fix and flippers, buy and hold investors, real estate agents get access to data to be able to automate all the tedious tasks you have to do in your day, to find deals, analyze properties, find opportunities, and do market research. Right now, we're going to be looking at the Dallas Fort Worth market, and you may not live there, but that's completely okay. You might live in a market where maybe it isn't a good idea to go look for deals there, and every market isn't created equal. So you want to make sure you're targeting high investor activity areas. And one of the things that I use to determine which markets to go to is these areas that have blue, which is where we've actually got the direct to MLS data. We're the only platform in the world that has direct to MLS data on this scale. And so it's currently over 100 markets with direct to MLS. But where you don't see blue, we've got data that you're already familiar with. So, like if you used a prop stream or a batch leads in the past, we have that level of data nationwide. That includes county record data, public information, assessors info, off market leads like foreclosures, absentee owners, vacancies, tired landlords, and others, as well as owner information. So you can see, if someone's, who owns the property. You can find buyers. From our direct to MLS data, you can find investor friendly agents. So a lot of data here, and we've scaled it up, right? So like I said, we have that foundational data that you're familiar with other platforms, and then we've added that direct to MLS data on top of it. Um, but when you're looking for deals, you want to be careful about where you spend your valuable time. Most of us probably, again, we don't have this the ability to do it full time, so we have to be very specific and laser focused on the right markets. And so over here on the left, we have these main tags. So if you're looking for wholesale deals, and probably most people here are looking for wholesale deals, the whole goal is to find properties you can get at a discount, right? And how do we measure those?
Right.
We measure those discounts based off of a percentage of after repair value, right, Corianne?
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, we have to know that there's activity happening in that area. And that's where we're getting that data.
That's where we get ARV, right? We can't
Hmm.
execute a wholesale deal unless you can accurately determine after repair value on your house. And the only way to determine after repair value on a house you're evaluating is if there are fix and flip houses around it. So this is the reason why you do not target areas that have low investor activity, usually rural areas, right?
Hmm.
But also too, you can see here, like in this map of Texas, there's lots of areas that just don't have a bunch of activity. Now, there is some activity in Amarillo, but it's only 94 deals in the last year. Not nearly enough activity that I believe that would be adequate to prove after repair value or to give us the data we need for comping, which comping is one of the biggest problems we have, right?
Yeah, and if you're trying to make a decision on what market that you want to go into and invest your time and your energy and figure out that market and get to know people that are working within it, you want it to be a market that can sustain you for a year. And 94 deals, don't know how many people have ever been a part of those deals or taking a bite out of them, but I want to see bigger numbers so that I know that at least a good percentage of those can make it into my pocket.
Absolutely. And again, those are also the comping, the data you need to prove value. So usually what we do, you guys, is we'll go look for deals where we live. And if you live in an area where no one's doing deals, if you find an opportunity, say if like through a foreclosure list, or maybe you're driving down the street and you find that house that has the grass overgrown and mail's falling out of the mailbox, and you go to comp it and you can't understand what the value is. Well, the reason is because you probably chose a low investor activity area. If you're in an area where everyone's
Hmm.
flipping, comping becomes really easy. It's really
Hmm.
easy to determine the after repair value, and it makes it very simple for you to understand what you should buy it for, what you should write the offer for, to make the margins work so that a buyer actually wants it.
Exactly. I think this answer frustrates a lot of newbies that I have conversations with, but the deal is not a deal unless there's a buyer. And so often, let's say somebody brings me a super high-end luxury property in Tampa. I'm like, there's not a lot of buyers for that particular genre. Could you potentially wholesale sale something like that and get it at enough discount? Perhaps. And also, do I want to spend like valuable weeks finding the one right buyer? No, which is why we're trying to find what's the masses going after? What's the neighborhood they're looking for? And what kinds of single family homes are they after?
It's absolutely true. And for the beginners out there, that's a really good way of getting started. You want to find something that appeals to the masses. And so, how do you do that? Well, you look at deals that have already been done, right? So, when I clicked this button and said fix and flip, that's showing me deals that have already been successfully closed. Where basically we're finding our comps first. So
Mhm,
this process, we call it the reverse REI strategy. Instead of just looking for leads first, you target the areas where you know all of the ingredients that you need to assemble a deal are already present, except for that small next thing, which is the lead. You need the buyers, you need the comps, you need the data, you need the market activity. That stuff is more difficult to make happen than the lead itself. So why not start with the end in mind? So we target an area like Fort Worth. I don't remember who suggested this market, but as we start to drill down into where we have these higher numbers, that's going to allow us to really start to do market research so we can learn what a deal is in this part of Fort Worth. And that will educate us on what buyers actually want. What are their buying criteria? What are they buying properties for? What are they selling them for? What percentage of after repair value are they buying houses at? What is a deal to the buyers in Fort Worth? And it's different than what someone
mhm,
wants in Dallas, even. But
mhm.
also all the way across the country, like a deal in Denver is not the same as a deal in Fort Worth or Tampa or Philadelphia.
I've
So
always been kind of shocked by the difference between, like, just a Jacksonville to Tampa. Relatively close, like, barely a drive. You can basically do it in less than half a day, and still those markets are vastly different, and even making that kind of jump is huge, which is why if you're coming in new and you're going after that first deal, or you're going after that wholesale career via that first deal, you need to choose only one market. I don't care even if you're doing this full time, one market is the place to start. So today it's Fort Worth. Let's learn about
it
it.
is. Yeah. So like these are all closed deals, right? So we can see visually where the concentrations of activity is. And as much as you would love to avoid competition, there's a pessimist in the crowd, or somebody who has the glass half empty rather than half full, or is a scarcity mindset who's thinking, oh, I don't want to go look for deals here. There's too much competition. What would you say to that?
I would say you're crazy. I've actually heard this quite often from people who are like, I don't want to go to Tampa. There's so many people in Tampa. And really, this business is about who you know. And so you need a group of people where you can know somebody. So generally, it's for me, I'm like, go where the people are because they know who the buyers are. They know those ARVs. They know exactly what to purchase at MAO and they can help you get through that loop faster. You don't want to be the lone wolf out here in rural Colorado trying to be both the buyer, wholesaler, and every deal. I can tell you it's hard.
It absolutely is. So right here, we can see all these closed deals, and this is where we can start to do our local market research. Okay, so we can start to understand what a deal is. So over here on the left, these are actually These are filtered by close date. So this house right here was a fix and flip that closed yesterday, closed in 1/2/24. That gives you a sense of how up to date this information is. Now, the other cool thing about Privy is that if you do deals in Texas, Texas is a non-disclosure state. What that means is that they don't publicly show in the county record data what properties sell for. They also don't show you photos. But when you use Privy, because that data is coming directly from the North Texas MLS in a raw format, we're able to show you the exact numbers. So Privy is not a publicly available platform. It's you're privy to information when you use Privy. You're getting private information when you're a
That's
subscriber to
cool.
Privy.
Hmm.
And that allows you to see like that this price, this is what the house actually sold for. If you went to the county records or if you used a platform like PropStream, you will not see this price. So how in the heck are you going to execute a wholesale deal in Texas if you don't have this information? Well, you can't, right? It makes it really, really difficult. So if I click this
Yeah.
property card right here,
Uh-oh. I lost you, Benson. You clicked on the property card and you were gone.
open up this report and we call comparative marketing. So we have the property details here. We have the photos and my internet's going slow and it's intermittent, you guys, so I apologize, but you can see that this has all of the red flags that this was a flip, right? There's just things missing. You got the stickers on the appliances. You got the property remarks. We got the comparables. So the algorithm inside of Privy and in the CMA for a specific house automatically pulls comps for you. So if you have trouble comping or you're not a comping expert or you're not an agent, this is how you get MLS level data to be able to accurately comp a property, determine if it actually makes sense from a numbers perspective. And here in the settings, we can adjust all of that. So we've got our standard comping that we use, which is based off of what appraisers and agents do. And that's the first pass, but you can actually come in here and you can remove the algorithm by clicking all or by adjusting this. Maybe I want to go to 20% of the square footage. Typically, we want to stay between 15 and 20%. So the square footage on this house is 1,254 square feet. So now that I adjusted this to 20, it goes all the way down to 1,004 and all the way up to 1,504. We can change the stories, year built, sold date range. That's all adjustable. The comp radius, we can adjust. And then below that, Corianne, is the before and after.
One of my favorite parts. Because
Yeah.
I get to see in this moment whether or not they had to put a ton of work in or where they bought that property and at what, because now I'm starting to understand what is that buyer doing, so that hopefully I can bring them their next flip.
Yep. We can understand their buy box, their buying criteria just by looking at this. Now, we can also learn something about this particular buyer. This buyer, we call them a buyer because they bought the house. They bought it back in August of last year. And we also know they bought it off market because it says public record here. If they got it from
Mhm.
the MLS, there'd be an MLS ID here, an agent name, and also likely photos of what it looked like when they listed it on the MLS. But we have a street view here, so that tells us this was purchased off market. Now they
Guys, if you
sold it.
missed that, because Benson goes through these things relatively quick, he knows so much. In just this area of Privy, you're seeing where it came from, where it is now, what the buyer bought for, what they sold for. You're getting all of that information and whether or not it was on or off market out of just this moment on Privy. And we know that there's more information above and below. So if you don't have Privy, what are you doing? Go get Privy. And you'll get a 30% off if you use the code DAMG, and that's for the annual plan, or 20% off the first month if you go that route, because we want you to have this so that you can get your first deal, so you can have that same taste that I have, which is that I always want another one. And Privy is the thing that's going to get you the right data the quickest so that you can get there.
Absolutely. And she mentioned too about what are they buying and selling for. So we can see that right here. They bought it for 212,000. They sold it for 299. They got it at 71% of the ARV and still flipped it. So one of the things that I learned about by looking at deals is that what I think is a deal isn't necessarily what someone else thinks is a deal. The flipper on this house is SUA Realty LLC. They're a limited liability partnership, LLP, and they are willing to buy houses at 71%. So you don't have to get deals at 30, 40% for it to make sense for buyers, as long as you've done your research. SUA
Mhm.
Realty will buy a house up to 71% in the right situation.
And last week, Benson, when you weren't here, we had the amazing Ryder Cotton on, and we were calling buyers using exactly what we found here. We'd take that LLC name, we'd put it right into Open Corporates and then True People Search and make that call so that you can specifically know, is this flipper looking for another one? And that's always kind of that question. Has this flipper done just one? Have they done multiple? Are they doing 24 this year? And that's where you can always start the conversation and get even more info as to what's going on in that particular market, direct from the buyer's mouth.
100%. And the other thing I just learned from this, you guys, by looking at this, is that SUA Realty, the flipper on this house, right, because it's coming from the county record, is also an agent. So Sua El
Oh,
Nazar is also an agent that represented themselves in the back end of the transaction. So all kinds of information you can gather here, you guys. You can add that to your local market research. SUA is likely an investor friendly agent because they're doing their own deals. And maybe they
mhm.
want to help you out too. Maybe you're looking for some boots on the ground in the Dallas Fort Worth area, someone who knows the local landscape, someone who understands real estate investing, and maybe they want to help you too. So
Somebody
that's just
brought
one
this,
deal.
um, that's just it's one deal that you looked at and you got multiple different kind of entry points into the business. Because not only are you supposed to choose your market, it's also so much easier if you choose your entry point. Meaning, are you coming as a dispo person that is bringing buyers to the table to complete the deal? Or are you coming as an acquisitions person who's getting the contract to start the deal? And so if you're coming in from that dispo buyer's perspective, that that gets you started. Just one click into that particular property and knowing a buyer's name can start to have you collect that. And then if you're coming from the act side, you just got yourself another agent. So, like a win-win-win from clicking on one property.
One of the things that I learned by doing this process is, again, I'm learning the local market, but I'm also just changing my paradigm on what I thought I knew. So if you go out
Mhm.
there in the world and you're looking on YouTube or you're listening to different gurus, they're all going to tell you, you can't find deals on the MLS. Well, the last deal we just looked at, SUA bought that directly from the seller at 71% of the ARV. This property was purchased from the MLS. You can see here, this is what it looked like before. Here's the after. And guess what? They bought this house at 48% of the after repair value from the MLS.
That's so
So
much
just
different
imagine
than
it's
71.
so much different than 71.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you think that you can't find deals on the MLS, you guys, you're sorely mistaken. And why not use the MLS as a source for deals? Because they're the hardest part, and this is what everybody tells each other. What are you doing? Well, we're looking for motivated sellers. Motivated sellers, motivated sellers. Well, who's more motivated to sell their house than someone who puts it on the MLS? Not somebody who's in
Right.
foreclosure who didn't pay their bill.
We might have just lost him. So I will continue his point because what he's saying is that we're always looking for motivation in a property. We want to be able to put our hand up and say, like, this is for sale. And so if we're looking on market, we already know that that seller has put their hand up and said, hey, I want to see this gone, or I've got some sort of change that is going to be happening in my life. And so, and sometimes, and if you're doing act, you know this, you'll pick up the phone, you'll call an agent, you'll be like, "Hey, well, what's going on in this situation?" And they'll be like, "Oh, I'll sit on this." Like it's their sixth property, we'll sit on it until we get the number. And then you go, "Oh, okay." Well, they don't really have motivation. They're willing to just let that listing sit. But overall, we know that the chances of motivation are so much higher when they've already raised their hand and put it on the MLS than if we're just calling random sellers we see on the street. And so that's getting us even closer to going under contract and proof that on the MLS you can get something under contract in the 40% range. Hi,
Oh yeah.
Benson. Welcome back.
Oh, did I phase out for a second?
Yes, you did.
All right.
Uh, but you're
Apologize.
back.
Well,
No
so you
worries.
wanted to call agents today. I think you mentioned that, right? Um,
Yeah, why not?
do you want to call agents from deals that have closed and maybe find someone to work with, somebody who can help with acquisition? Or do you want to look at a couple deals that we can find here and we can call them, or both?
Let's do both, and let's start with this one because you said isn't the owner also the seller,
No, it was the
or the
last one.
agent is also? Oh, okay. I'll do any of them, and that's kind of the beauty of it. It doesn't really matter who's on the other side. We can always make a good working conversation.
Yeah. Well, do you want to try this John Stab of
I sure
Motive
do.
Real Estate? Let's try them.
Can you drop that number in the private chat for me? Or
I can
actually, never mind.
try.
I've got it here.
You have the number?
Not yet, but I can get it. And that's sort of the beauty of going after agents is if they're a good agent, their number should be listed on Google.
Mm-hmm.
John Stab. Ooh, okay. Found a LinkedIn. 2 seconds.
Yeah, it looks like he's the broker
Mm,
owner.
er, All right, found him.
Reach John Staub. Please leave your name, your number, and a brief message, and I'll return your call as soon as possible. Thanks.
At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
Hi, John. My name is Corey Ann, and I was just looking at a listing that sold last year, the 3775 West 6th Street. Really, really pretty property. So I can tell you know some good sellers that are making houses beautiful. I'd love to connect with you and see how we might be able to put a deal together. If you could give me a call or text, this is the perfect number. I'm looking forward to it. Thanks and have a great day. Cool.
Awesome. So what was your approach on that phone call? Like did you go into it with a plan? Was it a script? Did you just kind of wing it?
That was a wing it, 100%. But let's say he picked up the phone and I was able to get him on and kind of just talk to him about this particular property. One, I would want to know how fast did that listing go? Like as soon as you listed it, did it go incredibly quickly and you had a lot of people that were interested and it was a bidding war? Or was that beautifully flipped property sitting there for a little bit before the right buyer popped in? So I would kind of just start to get the story out of him by asking a few of those questions. And then as I move on, I'd be like, well, does this particular seller, do they do a lot of different flips in the area? And ask some questions about the seller, not asking for any like direct contact or anything like that. And then I would ask, hey, do you mind asking them if they're interested in buying anything in Fort Worth this month? Because we could work together to get that right deal. I've got some inventory coming in this month. And I'm sure they would be like, yes. So I would work that agent in while trying to utilize the fact that they know a really great buyer.
Absolutely. And here's two. There is more information down here on the far right on about the deal itself. You can see, how long the construction period was on the deal. You can see how long it was on the market. So 76 days from when it was listed to when it closed. That does include escrow. So it doesn't mean it's sat on the market for 76 days. It means that when they listed it, they also got under contract. They did their due diligence. The title company did all their stuff within that 76 days and it finally closed.
Gina popped in here and asked for scripts, and I get this question a lot because I am generally a winger when it comes to getting on the phone because I've been on the phone so often now. But for those that are obviously going after that first deal, feeling a little hang up as to what to say, I want to tell you two things. One, just be yourself because it makes it so much easier. You don't have to sound like anybody else but somebody that's looking for the right distressed property to go under contract. The other aspect of that is there are great scripts on Jamil's IG. So if you jump over to his Instagram, I actually think it happened probably in the last week sometime. It'll show you a couple different scripts that you can see how to follow the process. I hope that helps.
Yeah, definitely. So scripts are great. It's a great way of getting comfortable with the process, but you want to get to a point where it's conversational. And so, Corianne said she winged it, but she didn't really wing it. Like she's done it so many times that it comes naturally. And that's what you should do. You should really just get on the phone, talk to a bunch of people, start to get more comfortable, leverage your script, but really it should be bullet points. Like you want to go into that call with wanting to accomplish like 5 major things, right? And then if you can make sure you're hitting all of those talking points, then it won't sound so scripted because that comes through the phone. But it's okay at the beginning, right? There's no reason not to just script it while you're getting comfortable with the whole conversation.
I would say the most important thing to script for yourself is who am I and what do I want? If you can at least know who am I and what do I want, then even if somebody's calling you at the grocery store, you can answer it and you can have a conversation while letting them know, oh, I'm checking out right now. I'm so sorry about that. Because that makes you a real person. And I've had many situations where I'm like, hey, I'm so sorry. I know I've been calling you all day, but my dog is like taking off. I live in the middle of nowhere, Colorado. And so if my dog's taking off, that could be a problem. I'm like, I will call you right back. And so like those kinds of things, when people pick back up, they're like, oh, what kind of dog do you have? And I'm like, oh, and be a person. It's totally great to be a person because then that connection is actually stronger with the agent that you're reaching out to.
Yeah, no kidding. I'm talking about stuff that appeals to the masses. That's how you appeal to your buyers too, is to become approachable. If you're a normal person and you don't sound like you're, a scammer, like they're always kind of like, who are you? Why are you calling me? And so they got their walls up. So, if you can become approachable and you can be, build, trust quickly, or at least just seem like a normal person, be a person like Corianne says, that should be a t-shirt. Then it'll be easier for them to want to do business with you and stay on the phone, because that first conversation is so important to build some level of credibility to where they want to continue talking to you on that call and also future calls.
I would like to just put out there that on the front, it could say be a person. And then on the side or on the back, it'd say easier with Privy's data.
It does. Because you had an icebreaker, right? When you called him, you said, yeah, I'm calling you about this beautiful house on 6th Street. Right away, John was like, oh, Corianne, she did her research. She knows about 6th Street. She complimented me. In that case, he's more likely to call back than if it sounds robotic or she didn't say it in the right way and she didn't leverage the data to turn that cold call into a warm call right out of the gates.
Absolutely.
So
I've seen a few different addresses pop up. Can we go ahead and grab some from the chat?
Sure. Just to comp them out?
Yeah, I've got some in Fort Worth. Let's see here.
Okay.
How about 3813? Oh gosh. Will Barger, WILBARGER.
So what I'm doing right now, you guys, is if you come across an address, like, so there's different ways of the process, right? Right now, I was showing you like how to choose a market, how to do your local market research, how to find investor-friendly agents, how to find buyers. But then you might come across a deal, right? So we type the address in here to the upper left-hand corner, or you can do it on your phone. If you're out in the field, just pull out your phone, go and log into Privy on your mobile browser, and then you can pull a property up and it'll automatically comp the property out for you. So this house right here is a 3-bed, 1-bath ranch. And it looks like here here are the comparables. So the algorithm uses the major property characteristics to automatically pull comps for us.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's showing us there's 6 sold, and we use an 8-month time period. And we're looking at these very tight criteria. There's an active listing here, and there's also rental data. There's actually a house that's rented right now for $1,100. So there's other buyers here besides just flippers. There's also landlords. Landlords are looking for properties too.
Mm-hmm.
And so whoever owns this house on Wilbarger right here, this other rental, might be looking for a new house to go turn into a rental. And so that's one of the things that Privy has is rental data that comes from property management companies.
In this particular one, the rental that pops up is the same property. So they have it both listed and up for a rental at the same time.
Well, it's not listed. This is an off-market property. So that's a good catch.
Look
You're
at the
correct.
rental you just pulled up. I think it's the same address.
It is, but this house right here is not on the market. The one we pulled up. It's just a house they wanted to evaluate.
That's right. So, okay, they've got it up as a rental. They don't yet have it up for sale. Interesting. Okay, let's keep diving in. That could tell you something about what might be going on with the seller. If I see it up for rent and up for sale, I'm like, ooh, somebody's motivated. They need money in their pocket this month, one way or another. And so those are the types of people that I like to go after. In this case, I would be very curious as to what kind of conversation behind the scenes is happening with the seller, since I am finding a rental listing. And perhaps that's, if I get on the phone with the seller or the agent connected to this seller and I ask them, are they looking to sell? And they're like, well, no, they prefer to hold it as a rental. I'm not going to be pushing a sale on them. I'm going to go, oh, okay, well, let me know if anything, if they can't get it rented. And then I'll probably follow up in a couple weeks just to see if they were able to get it rented. But pushing against where somebody's motivation is not going to help you align with them. Again, I'm not sure what's going on in the background, but we can go back to comping. We can keep going. 3-bedroom, 1 bath.
So from the sold data here, we can see that of the houses that are true comps, we don't have any flips as part of those. And we can see that because we're looking here, we don't see the light gray with the arrow and the black, which is what we do to try to find people who flipped properties recently. But if we go into settings and we click all and click save, that will remove the comping algorithm and show us other stuff that's in the area. And then maybe we can pull a couple of those houses out that could be considered comparables. And you can see here that we do have a few other properties, 3 houses that were flipped that are in that half a mile zone that weren't true comparables on the first pass. Like this house right here that went for $229, that's 1,087 square feet. Our subject property's 872. So it's too big to be a true comparable, but we might be able to use it. And then up here, this house right here is 1,032. So just outside of the square foot tolerance, that one went for 220.
Do you mind showing everyone how they can use the circle tool and get only the south of Martin Luther King Drive? Because that road is clearly incredibly large. And so I don't want, if those flipped comps are all on the north side or east, whichever one you want to call it, then that would be a major problem. So this is a really cool point.
Yeah, so right here on the map, you guys, you can see how the standard, the default distance we use is a half a mile. Sometimes we'll cross over a major road. And so you don't want to cross over yellow roads or sometimes even thick white ones. So Corian is correct in saying that we should adjust this comp zone. So I'm going to click the pencil icon and I'm going to click and I'm going to hold, and that'll allow us to draw a line right there. And I'm just going to kind of draw where the square was before, except for I'm going to cut it off on MLK.
Perfect.
And then it resets and recalibrates and it gets rid of anything that was northeast of MLK. And then I can come down here and it looks like you were correct in thinking. So 2 of those flip comps, Corian, were north of that, northeast. But you still have 1 left over that's on Childress. And that's one of the larger ones, the 230. So comp wise, let's go ahead and sort by distance here. We'll sort by the closest to the furthest. This house went for 272. It's too big though. It's 1,700 square feet. Let's go ahead and hide that.
Absolutely. Just get rid of it. This little thing to the left of the address, guys, the I, if you click on that, it gets rid of it. And you want to use that like wild, because the worst feeling in the world is I've locked my ARV. It's freaking fantastic. This is going to be a great deal. And then you look at year built and it's actually like 40 years newer. And it was just because you were looking at all the other numbers that you missed the year built. So use that I a lot, especially if it's just something about it is outrageous, just to get it out of your way.
I want to
So I
check
mean,
something.
really,
872.
what are you going to check?
I just want to see if, how much larger we could go. Like you could basically go up to about 1,050 square feet and then still be within that 20% range. This one's 1205. So I think that's too big, right? Even though it's helpful to know this might be a buyer you can go and source. So one of the strategy, guys, is to go and find buyers that are in the same area as the houses that you're evaluating. So if you do want to find a buyer for this, let's say you can lock it up, the Wilbarger house, then we can come in here and see who flipped this property on Childress. And that could be a potential buyer for this house on Wilbarger if we do get it under contract, but it's not a true comp.
And if I don't know where to get it under contract, that's kind of the perfect person to call, right? Is I need a client for my product, but I'm not quite sure what my product should cost. So I call that person up and first I ask them, are you ever interested in taking on properties that are under 1,000 square feet, that are much smaller than I know the property that you did was bigger? I kind of have that back and forth. And if they say yes, then I go, well, what does that mean for ARV in this particular area? And I ask those questions because that means that I'm bringing a better product to them next time and I am saving them time. So it might even be worth the conversation as soon as possible if it's the only thing I can find that's close to that ARV in that area.
Yeah, so this is Avocet Ventures LP. So they're the ones that flipped this house. And they bought theirs off market at 71%, like that other person earlier that we found. 71%. Two houses that were flipped in this neighborhood in Fort Worth were at 71%. So that would be somebody worth talking to for sure. But it's not a comp. It's just a little bit too big. But that's the thing. Sometimes you guys won't find very true comparables right out of the gate. So you have to loosen your criteria to bring in more information to help you derive that after repair value.
And this is going to feel a little contradictory to the other statement about going through the process of finding that buyer and what kind of number would they want to be able to lock that product. Also, if I'm not seeing a lot of comps, if I'm not finding that ARV quickly, that might mean this property just doesn't pass my filters for the area, because I want to know where is it really active and how can I find something in that area where it's really active at the right price. And so if I can't find a lot of flips that are south of that MLK Boulevard, then it might be just an easy, I'm moving on to the next property.
It's true. So there's a couple sales here, you guys.
Settings and do my favorite, the all in investor only.
Yes.
Thank you. Let's see where it takes us. For a reminder of anybody else that uses this setting, what that will do though is it will give you investor activity in the box that was drawn by Benson, but it's not giving you comps. I just want to know, is there investor activity? And it brings back up the one that we've already seen and the one we already know.
Yep. And now that we clicked all as well, we can see here that there's actually other landlords in here that have more rentals. So we, at the first pass, when we were looking at just true comps, we found that one rental comp, but there are actually other rentals in this area. These three right here. It's the purple ones, and they're all really close. All that same neighborhood.
Yeah. Guys, just a
So, you
reminder,
know,
we were able to get all of that information all through Privy. So if you don't have it, I highly suggest you use our promo code. It is DAMG. That'll get you 30% off the annual package or 20% off your first month. And then you have access to this kind of info. Because very quickly I can go, oh, there's not a lot of investor activity, but there is a lot of rental activity. Maybe the buyer, the owner of this particular property knows what they're doing when they have it, and then they go and they list it as a rental.
yep. And without getting into the weeds on the comps, you guys, this thing's probably right around 200, 210 max, based off the story, the number of stories, bedrooms, bathrooms, and square footage. But that's the process. The algorithm does the majority of the comping for you, and then you can massage the information that's there to really get down and nail down your after repair value. So that was a good one. Thanks for sending that.
Absolutely. Somebody asked if in non-disclosure states, if you can see Liz pendants, and I don't know the answer to that because both of my states are disclosure states. I'm pretty sure you would have to go through somebody like a title company to get a Liz pendants in a non-disclosure state. Is that true?
I'm not sure about that either.
Okay.
Normally, non-disclosure has to do with sales prices, not
Hmm.
necessarily public filings. So you'll still have public filings in Texas. You can still get foreclosures and, you know, bankruptcies, and you can get a lot of that stuff. I think list pendants falls into that bucket. But it's actually the privacy of what a house sold for they're trying to protect.
Got you. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So the chances of you being able to see that are pretty high. My other thing though, when I run across issues like that where I'm like, I don't know the answer in this particular state, is I will call a title company. I'll say, hey, I'm about to go under contract. I'd like to use you as the title company. I had a few questions. And then we'll bring whatever it might be. So always use title companies if you don't know something technical like that.
Yep. All right, cool. So we got a couple more minutes here. What do you think we should do? Should we look at another address, or do you want to see if there's any deals that we can identify?
Let's look at one more address and see if it's somebody that I can actually call. So at 729 Judd Street, Judd Street in Fort Worth. We're staying themed in Fort Worth. I love it.
Interesting. 729 Judd Street. Looks like it's for sale. Been on the market 21 days. Another situation we're going to want to adjust the comp zone. So I'm going to cut it off here on 35 West. That looks like an interstate.
Yes. And awesome.
And
This one's on market.
this is one of Jason's properties. So 189 distance here. You can sort any of these columns by clicking the title here, and it will sort by closest to furthest. So they don't have anything that's close to it, but they're all within a reasonable distance. And there's a lot of new construction in this area. So pay attention to the year built. You guys, looks like this house right here is probably the highest and best use for it is to scrape it. If you can get it for the right price. But you know, this house sold for $355. So if you can get a house, the right lot, and our lot is bigger than the lot that this one was built on, then knocking this house down might be what you want to do with it.
Certainly at the prices that they're talking about, because this is a 1950 build and nothing in the area is a 1950. At least that investors have touched. Can you show us the solds? Just regular old solds. All right, so there's a few more in there. That's good. What is this? Yeah. I always jump. If I see the two, I jump straight to that visually and I go, okay, what happened here? Because it's already keying me off that it could have been something that's like a flip scenario.
Yeah, it looks like this one was flipped, but it didn't show up in this investor comp section because it's such a low margin. But maybe that's the thing on this house is they're pricing this like it's like post flip pricing, or they're pricing it thinking that people are looking for lots in this area and actually want to go and um and do wholesale or fix and flip. But
Mhm.
this house shows me that if I'm going to flip this house, that 217 is probably going to be the most I'm going to get out of a renovated home here. And
Yeah,
so if you're
that's
approaching
definitely what
that
I'm seeing.
as a flip or a wholesale deal, and 217 is where you want to be. Let's see. This is a 3.2. Ours is a 3.1.
Mhm.
So we probably even need to adjust that down a bit to say 205. And let's say we want to get it lower than two of the buyers that we just saw. They both bought at 71%.
Mhm.
So let's say we want to get this at what, 65?
Yeah, that's about where I'd wanna come in. And the other thing, though, that I would kind of, I guess, be concerned about is the closeness to that main road, away from all of the other investor activity that I'm seeing that's kind of further off, and a lot of it's new builds. So a big question that I would be having is, could I even really look at this like a valuable flip, or do I need to look at it as land value? And I know that I can look at it as land value because there are so many new builds. So what I would be taking is that new build ARV, and I would want to purchase this at about 20% of whatever that new build ARV is. Because think for my end buyer, that's about 20% of their cost in. That's still pretty high just to get the land, and now they also have to swipe all of that property off before they even put in the build. So I know my number might be super low if I'm actually looking at it as just that. But what do you say if we call the agent and get some feedback from them as to what they think in terms of where we could take this property?
Yeah, for sure. We only have a couple minutes left, and I actually have a hard stop in 3 minutes.
All right. Well, if for any
The
reason I
agent is
can't get this
Delisa
gal off the
Rose.
phone,
Delisa
cool.
Rose,
I'm gonna
EXP
do it.
Realty.
I've got her number right.
I don't hear anything.
I'm just jabbering over here, and for some reason I'm on mute.
You were muted. Okay, good. I thought that
Sorry.
was something
Okay.
else.
So I went straight to the like EXP worldwide office. So if I were going to follow that route, it would definitely take some time. And then I go and I try to look her up and I don't find her very quickly. So she might be using that office to kind of to hopefully keep people off of her cell phone, but I'm sure I could find her if I continued. I just know that we're almost out of time. If I were to call, that would be the question I would be asking is just, hey, I'm seeing that there's a lot of new builds in the area. This one's 1950. It's right off of that main road. So I'm curious, in your suggestion, is this something I could flip, or would we really need to just wipe this down and build something fresh and let them talk and get some feeling for it? And if they do say, hey, like this is actually something I believe that you could flip, I'm going to ask for more proof on that. I'm going to be like, okay, what comps are you looking at of flips that were actually in the 1950s? And see what they send me for an email, because who knows if there's something new that I could look at that could shift that. But already based off the data that I know is so good and in Privy, then I can kind of get the feeling that this doesn't quite thread the needle of something that's that easy, and certainly not at that price. So the next question is there wiggle room for a lower offer? I hope that was helpful, everybody. I cannot believe how fast this hour goes. It goes fast for me every time because I look forward to it. I'm glad you guys show up. I see Jason in the chat. I see Nick in the chat. Like, so many of my friends are here, and you guys are my friends because I love real estate. I'm a total nerd for it, and I want to see you succeed and use it in your life. So hit me up on IG if you haven't already. It's just my name. And then Benson, if they need to find you, if they've got any questions for you, how should they reach out?
Oh, you can find us on Instagram. You can find us on TikTok. It's just Benson REI. You can find me there. We do lots of other, lots of you know, training and tips and tricks there. So you can find us there for sure.
Awesome. Thank you, Benson, for showing us what's up in Privy. If you guys don't have it,
Thank you.
suggest it. Use the promo code DAMG, and we'll see you next week for more fun on Privy.
Sounds good. Bye, everyone.
Bye.